Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is June the 5th, 2020. Strong hand, long-term thinking. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. Offended by selling. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture. All right, we're going to start off by talking about personal responsibility because it seems like a lot of people don't have that anymore in the world today. Oh my. But everybody, remember, follow me on Twitter, TechBalt, TECHBALT, disruptmeister.com, all the old shows. We've got an old ugly goat here. He's going to give us one side of the story here from his veteran perspective on life. And then we've got the exciting, energetic Christian bringing it live from San Francisco. Oh, yeah. So let's start off with Christian here because he's familiar with one of the sayings of this show. Personal responsibility is a new counterculture. And right before the show, we were talking about there seems like there's a little bit of a lack of personal responsibility in the world today, and people are going wild. So what's up, Christian?
Well, I mean, we know that there's a lack of personal responsibility, and part of that is just because the state has become so large and such a huge part of our lives that it's, people are conditioned to kind of depend on it and other institutions around them. So coming from a more libertarian mindset, we need the state to become smaller in order for people to fill those parts of their lives with their own, with their own responsibility, with their family, with their friends, with the people around them, without on the man, on the president, on whoever to dictate and feed them and give them housing and pay them and make their lives great. So I feel like we've gotten to this point in our lives and in our society where government is huge. And then when you see the enforcement arm of the government kill your brother and your neighbor in the street, it freaks you the F out because you're just so dependent on them already.
Wow. Very, very good point there. What do you think about the people in our community that say, well, just protest with Bitcoin? What do you think about that? Is that just too overreaching or?
I mean, I don't think that it's overreaching. I actually think that Bitcoin is a true and very powerful option for a peaceful revolution. But for people outside of the community, there's just so much onboarding and education that needs to be had for them to understand that the root of our problems is not red team, blue team. It's not black, white. It's actually the monetary system that it's built on and the incentive system that we're utilizing to organize. So it's not intuitive. It's really the opposite of what everyone's putting their energy into. So while I do think it's true, sometimes it might not be the best wording to go to newbies and say Bitcoin fixes this, because to them, they're like, get out of town.
All right. And there seems to be some lots of people like to scapegoat when we have a big problem like this and simplify. And some people are pointing toward capitalism. They're like, you see, it's the capitalistic system that's keeping everybody down. And we've got to rip that. We've got to expand the government. So everything that you're saying, it seems like people are going in. Well, a lot of the loud people out there are going in another direction in terms of what they're promoting. So I think we're safe here in the Bitcoin overlay. As long as we got our Bitcoin, we're in good shape, even if things go to the socialism way, which who knows? This has been such a wild year. You don't know what's around the corner next. I mean, what's the next big thing that's going to happen? All right, ugly old goat, your time to talk about personal responsibility and the current event situation.
I think what's going on, I'm kind of having fun, and it's not fun to watch what's going on. But one of the things that I've found is really Bitcoin is going to transcend this, and I don't think that's an overreach. But by the same token, there's very real things going on right now. I mean, my son lives in La Mesa, which is a beautiful suburb of San Diego, and the trolley runs out that way, and they rioted and looted the town and burned down a couple banks, a number of small businesses. A Kratom business that we regularly visit, I understand, was completely looted. And so, when he was there witnessing it, and I could tell there was genuine fear, on his face. And so, we don't want a society without laws. I'm not an anarcho-capitalist. I do believe in, very limited government, and I do believe in capitalism, which I don't think we don't have that in the United States, and I'm for freedom. But there are very specific lines that have been developed to handle these situations, and you need, if you're going to go out. Look, I've done over 11 years in prison. I've been beat up by the cops. I've had police lie. I've had exculpatory evidence concealed from me. They used my children to try and set me up and never revealed that this was going on. My defense was, hey, I'm being set up. and I was, but they hid all that information. So, I said the sentencing, is just draconian, and it was very, the sentencing guidelines for crack cocaine was just far excessive in relationship to what it was for regular cocaine, and that severely affected the black neighborhoods rather than the white guys that had a lot of cocaine did not get the sentences that somebody with a little bit of crack had. So there are real things that need to be addressed. But the question now is, how are we going to be personally responsible? And one of the things that I've been sort of emphasizing is we have to distinguish between peaceful protesting and nonviolent resistance. They are two different things, and they are legally spelled out. And if you are decided, I've done both. I've peacefully protested. I have nonviolently resisted. But if you go the route of nonviolent resistance, there can be consequences. You can be pushed back. You can be arrested. You can be rubber bulleted. You can be tased. You can be killed because you've just escalated. You've gone that other line. And I just tried to illustrate that in a real prison situation that I had. And maybe I should tell this story because I did tweet it out. And that is, I was in the shoe, the hole basically, and if you're in the shoe, and I was there for over a year at one stretch, but at night we'd go crazy at night. That's when they'd sleep all day. Well, during the day, one day, at night I would participate in this craziness, and I would do this thing and said, "You know what I can do with my big hairy arms and my ruby red lips?" And I'd shout that just occasionally every 20 minutes or an hour. Finally somebody said, my handle was Big Bird. And they said, "Okay, Big Bird, what can you do with your big hairy arms and your ruby red lips?" And I went, "Buh, buh, buh." Okay, but here's the situation. During the day, one time, we were all sleeping, and they brought a tourist crowd, and they were all local politicals or maybe some federal, and they were all different colors and women, and they were midterm politicians. They took them for a tour, and we were all saying, "What is this?" We kind of felt like zoo animals that they were taking, these outsiders to look at us prisoners. So I shouted out, "Do you know what I can do with my big hairy arms and my ruby red lips?" And I did that 3 times, and finally they said, "No, Big Bird, tell us, what can you do with your big hairy arms and ruby red lips?" So in the meantime, it was just hilarious to watch because the guards knew what I was doing, and they were, but they, under orders, they had to rush everybody out. Because these visitors were being threatened by a dangerous prisoner. So immediately after it was all done, I said, "Okay, Braun, cuff up." So I put my arms out. They cuffed me. They put me in a room. all by myself in isolation, no clothes except my pink underwear, no mattress or nothing for 24 hours because I had to be under observation to make sure I wasn't hurting myself or other people. Okay. Had I resisted and said, no, I'm not going to get cuffed up, then they had every right to come into me with the pepper spray and use whatever force they could to subdue me because I was displaying, I was a danger to either myself or other people, according to most reasonable people. And I get it. It was set up. I paid the price, but it was worth it. But I wasn't going to resist to the point not cuff up. If you're before a police line, in which I saw this, and somebody was saying, peace, I love you. But they were ordered to move. You're not loving the cop if you're sitting there and not moving because he doesn't care how much you say he's love you. He's going to push you back and move you. And so you guys, clarify the situation. Hey, if you want to resist, all for it, but face the consequences. Two different things.
All right. I want to say one thing about your tale from prison there. Pound that like button if that just scared you straight, people. That entire story should make you think about being careful out there and not ending up where he ended up. You don't want to end up being Big Bird in the family. All right. Now, Christian, it was a helpful Christian. We got Ross Ulbricht. This all leads into what was brought up to me that the Ross petition has 300,000 signatures now. And so obviously the whole world is talking about, the United States seems to be talking about police and legal related issues these days. And I wanted to remind everyone that he's serving a double life sentence without parole plus 40 years for a website that he made. It was Silk Road when he was 26 years old. And it's okay. He was an entrepreneur, had a nonviolent charge at trial. He was never prosecuted for causing any harm or bodily injury, and no victim was named at the trial. So, Christian, do you have any thoughts in this day and age on that travesty that's going on over there?
So before I get into Ross, I would like to address a little bit of what Ugly Goat said. And I think that one of the big things that people push back on is the fact that the force used against people for nonviolent resistance or whatever you want to call it is very inconsistent. And right now, the scenes from these riots and protests are really, really, really a bad look for most police. There's just been so many videos of it seems as though police acting bad. Granted, they are in a tough situation. They're probably scared. They're outnumbered probably 100 to 1, if not 2 or 500 or 1,000 to 1, which is very, very scary, even if you have body armor and guns. But there's just a lot of evidence of police acting bad. And I think that a lot of this anger has to do with police acting bad in minority communities to begin with. And again, there's a lot of nuance there and a case-by-case basis type situation, but it's not clear. And it seems as though, law enforcement is just not consistent. And that's one of the problems. Going into Ross, the story of Ross is super, super sad. The woman or the judge that prosecuted him was trying to make a huge example of him. It seems as though everything has been completely unfair towards him. And despite this petition, it seems as though really his only chance is to have a presidential pardon. I don't know if that's actually a fact, and I am not a lawyer, but from my understanding is that there's very few options left for Ross. And it's sad that, someone who's an innovator, someone who's pushing for freedom, and someone that was an early Bitcoin adopter is in this position. And I think that Bitcoiners in general should take Ross as a sad example. And a lot of what's happening in current society right now is an example of why you need to protect your privacy, why you need to be, very careful with your OPSEC and broadcasting your wealth or broadcasting your opinions about certain things on certain platforms. make sure that you are not incriminating yourself now or in a future date. So, there is a big government that's draconian right now. That's a fact of life. And until that changes, it doesn't help to be ignorant of it.
I mean, what do you think about the overall narrative that's out there? Just like, do as, there's a riot, so we're going to have a curfew. Take away, you can't go out at night. There's a disease. You got to stay in your house. I mean, and people are buying it. People are buying the narrative of just like fear and let the government, I'm just going to believe what they're going to tell me. And I'm going to be the compliance narrative. What do you think about that, Christian? And has San Francisco, now that do they still care about the virus up there? I'm very curious.
Yeah, SF is quite locked down. It's been very locked down. SF as a population is well suited for lockdown because there's so many tech workers that can just easily work from home. Not many cities essentially have 100% remote friendly work staff. And people here are liberal and compliant for the most part. So lockdown is definitely very severe. Matt Odell actually brought up this point on the Bitcoin magazine Drinks in Quarantine last night, was that he was very sad by the response to the lockdown, that no one resisted. Everyone just went into their hole, accepted the narrative. But he was made a little bit more happy, or at least hopeful, based on the protests and reactions against the curfew, against the police brutality. And it seems as though people are waking up. So while there are people that are complying, there are a lot of people that are waking up like never before. I think Signal, as a privacy messaging app, broke its all-time downloads and hit top 10 downloads on the App Store this past week. So liberal or conservative leaning, that maybe the police and the government don't always have their best interests in mind, don't always do the right thing, and don't always make the right decisions. And personally, I think that if there isn't a massive uptick in COVID cases that ravage all these cities, that social distancing is over. I think that it's just no longer in the zeitgeist of the people, and the fact that people are just getting out in thousands, despite the threat of this invisible enemy of death, it kind of just shows that they're over it. It's been 8+ weeks now, 9 weeks of lockdown across the country, and people are over it.
Oh, big. I like that, using zeitgeist. Pound that like button. All right, Ugly, do you have any thoughts on what Christian just said? Anything?
Rather than, I don't know the details of the Ross Ulbricht. I mean, obviously, without knowing the details, I can certainly see that the sentencing was draconian. But I would kind of use this space to even bring what I think people that have really addressed the issue very successfully, and nobody's on the streets protesting this. And I'm not talking about somebody that, I'm talking about people that have been locked up for crimes they never committed and have been basically found innocent. And sometimes even after all that evidence comes about, it takes years to get them out. And so I just want to give a big kudos and support to the Innocence Project, because I know of those cases that they've done. And so if it takes a Ross Ulbricht to wake up what's already going on within our prison and justice system, then I'm all for it. Because Ross Ulbricht is not alone. He's not the only one. I'm not going to argue the innocence on this. Because I don't know. And I'm not saying either way, but I can say, as far as the sentencing goes, and a lot of this we've taken. I don't know how it is now, because I know they've reformed it, and I know that as much as bad press Trump gets, he was the president that got rid of these sentencing guidelines that were throwing on these huge sentences. And I think Ross Ulbricht was actually convicted before these changes were made. I'm not sure, but I don't know what I don't know what guidelines they used to sentence a guy. But again, I was a jailhouse lawyer, so I'm fairly familiar with the law. But if I started to look at the case, I'd want to really get into it. I got enough on my plate. I'm going to let other people do that.
All right. And Christian, before we move basically back to Bitcoin, any more thoughts on this beyond Bitcoin topic?
Well, I mean, I guess talking about the expansion of the prison system and, the fact that prisons have been growing nationwide since 1971 and kind of bringing it back to Bitcoin, if the government couldn't print all the wealth that they wanted, then and couldn't print all the money that they wanted, they probably couldn't afford to, keep so many people in prison. So it does seem that, at the root of this problem, again, is the money. And this is why we are all here in Bitcoin, because we think that taking the money out of the state's hand effectively makes it impossible for them to finance war, finance an excessive police force, finance all this extra laws, finance the war on drugs, finance all these things that have been encroaching on our lives for so many years.
And what happens is you build all these bureaucracies. For example, in prison they have all the drug rehab programs. Well, is it really the government's job to rehab drug? No, it's not any more than it is to educate us. We can do that as individuals much better on our own, which we're learning that. People are saying, hey, why do I need this college education that they're willing to borrow, loan me all this money and I'll be in debt the rest of my life when I can go online and pay a small fee to one of these private services that have it all there for me to grasp and hold on to. I mean, what a liberating thing this is. And, I know like my grandparents, they only had an 8th grade education, but they were well educated. They were better educated than probably the average college graduate is today. They knew their reading. They called it the 3 R's back then, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if you got those down, you pretty well could make your way around the world. So I kind of believe in keep it simple, stupid. I'm also, the other thing that they do is they want to have control of you. That's why they have these sentences. And I think, frankly, I'm more in favor of bringing back a limited form of corporal punishment. You bad boy, spank them, or something, because they didn't get it when they're a child. And I do believe, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And it goes back not to the new Adam, not to the Adam Meister that we know, but it goes back to the old original Adam. Right, Adam? And I have a son named Adam, so I like that name. But
yeah, you're bringing old school there. Corporal punishment. Okay, all right. Let's jump back into to Bitcoin here. Now that we got all the social stuff out of the way, I want to bring it to Christian. It seems like Grayscale controls the world just by the stuff I'm reading. They keep on buying more Bitcoin that's being mined. What do you think about this, Christian?
So I think Grayscale is definitely a double-edged sword. Grayscale is phenomenal for Bitcoin price appreciation. It is sucking up so much supply out of the market. And at this point, it's sucking up, like Adam alluded to, the Grayscale Trust is sucking up more Bitcoin on a daily basis than are actually being produced. So that's super freaking bullish. Grayscale itself is also a one-way mechanism. So Bitcoins do not leave the trust unless the trust is dissolved. That's the only way for Bitcoins to leave the trust. So that's super, super bullish. Here's the bearish part. Tons and tons of Bitcoin are going into one custodian's hands, and that custodian happens to be probably the most anti-Bitcoin custodian there is, which is Coinbase. There's a lot of negative sentiment towards Coinbase. Today, it was just announced that Coinbase is going to start selling blockchain analysis to the Department of Justice and the IRS. Coinbase has been acting bad for a long time. Coinbase has been arguably anti-Bitcoin for quite a long time, and they have a lot of Bitcoin. I really wish, like when Grayscale decided to move their Bitcoin to Coinbase for their custody, I tweeted out, like, why does Barry think that it's a good idea to put more Bitcoins into Coinbase? It's not a good idea. So while I do think that Grayscale is phenomenal, DCG is great for Bitcoin despite being shitcoiners. Sorry. It is scary to just see close to 1 million Bitcoins inside of Coinbase. That's close to 21st of the entire supply. So I do not like that.
All right. I want to hear ugly old goat. You've got, I mean, what do you think about Coinbase? You're a regular dude. Ugly old dude.
Well, I'm in one situation that was resolved that I can't talk about. Okay. But there are other situations, and I was the initiator of a class action that was settled. I think Billy Restus was the lawyer behind it, and I was basically provided the affidavits to where it was the judge ordered it to proceed. And it was settled. I don't know the terms there, but it was settled. It wasn't as widespread as we thought, but I'm probably still not done there. But basically, I do know that there was a situation that I have sent out a bunch of people in Bitcoin way back in 2013. And after I'd already gone through litigation and I said, okay, we're done, and I promise you not to sue for anything in the future, I found out that a lot of these people never got their Bitcoin. And that's what the class action was about. And but this still is kind of
wait a second. So I was wrong. I was a little wrong. You're not a regular guy when it comes to Coinbase. You're a little bit more intertwined in legal action.
Yeah, in fact, I'll probably start writing about it. Here's how it works, guys. If you really want to, I'm going to probably write the actions that need to be taken in Coinbase, particularly if you've ever been screwed by them. You're limited, but they are located in California, so you have a remedy, and that is the small claims court. Now, you cannot, when you go into the terms of service of Coinbase, the terms of service, you are agreeing never to sue them. That if you have a dispute, you have agreed to go into arbitration. Of course, the arbitration service is where they're located, which is San Francisco or right next to them. So you have traveling expenses. It's hard for you and easy for them. And so the way to get around that, the thing that they're exempt from is you can still take them to small claims court. So as long as you're willing to settle for $10,000 or less, or that's the amount, you can do that. And like I say, Coinbase can be killed with it would be very difficult with a large lawsuit, but with 1,000 cuts, it can be done, I think, quite easily, depending upon how many shenanigans they pulled. But I do know they pulled a lot.
So, wow.
Yeah, and so basically that's how we can do it. You can do it as an individual, and if all of a sudden they get hit with 1,000 or 10,000 small claims courts, it'll be interesting to see just how they fare.
Interesting take on it. Remember, everyone, Bitcoin's price went up recently and Coinbase crashed again. So I'm just on the technical side of things. I am still, I'm always happy when I hear they crash because I know people, I just know it's early still. That such a big player is crashing still. Christian, do you have any take on that? Like when they're going to get their stuff together in terms of technical?
So I'm just echoing what other people are saying. I'm non-technical. I'm just a pundit. But yeah, it seems as though Coinbase is just a lot more focused on adding new tokens, supporting their trading features, but they just can't focus in on building a good Bitcoin product. And it's kind of sad because they had such an opportunity to be a fantastic Bitcoin company, and they started off as a fantastic Bitcoin company, and they rode Bitcoin to the top of the charts as the easiest way to buy Bitcoin. And since then, they've just absolutely squandered it. Brian Armstrong just seems like he just has absolutely no idea what Bitcoin is about. And to be honest, like I'm glad that Coinbase appears to be the AOL of Bitcoin. I'm glad that Coinbase is giving up their dominant position, hopefully, because the fact that they already have 1 million Bitcoins in their custody is enough. Like if they were actually a good company for Bitcoin, people actually wanted to put their Bitcoins there, maybe they'd have an even more dominant position on the Bitcoin supply. So I'm glad that they have less of it. Hopefully, I mean, maybe they don't know. Like it's an alternative reality where Coinbase is actually friendly to Bitcoin. But I'm very, very thankful and excited to see the growth of the Bitcoin only industry. Bitcoin Magazine, the company that I work for, is a Bitcoin only publication. We're seeing a lot of amazing Bitcoin only on ramps, Cash App, Swan, River. These did not exist in 2017. Going into 2020, 2021, these are fantastic services that do not, do anything to confuse users. They make it about education. They're making it about Bitcoin. Vijay Boyapati wrote a fantastic article a long time ago about how it's not about going horizontal on crypto. It's about going vertical on Bitcoin and providing services across Bitcoin. So I think that there's a lot of companies that are following that thesis, and I think that they're going to compete because at the heart of it, it's not about crypto. It's not about poop coins. It's about Bitcoin.
Well, let's go back to the horizontal on crypto, because clearly that's what Coinbase is doing. The way Coinbase makes money is off of fees, is off of trading fees and buying fees. So the more they offer, the more coins they offer, the more likely they're going to get traded. They're going to get bought. I see what they're doing, and it's just they're spreading themselves pretty thin though.
Short-term thinking. Yeah. Taking the money now and not the reputation, and I mean, like, it's just like why most people shouldn't trade. I know Ugly Old Goat is a fantastic trader, and not most people can't do that. Most people shouldn't be trading because they're going to be trading small moves and they're missing the biggest bull market in history. So that's what Coinbase is doing right now. They're taking the income now, and they're giving up their position in the future in Bitcoin.
Well, the scary thing is they do have that huge hodl, and basically it is ultimately seizable. It's not unconfiscatable, and that's the big thing that I was taught by Tone Vays and Tyler Jenks, and that's one of the qualities that makes Bitcoin unique. And we're giving up that quality. It's very disappointing. Yeah, with Barry Siebert. I mean, I'm not a fan of the GPs. I mean, I get it. I understand why people want something like that, but it's because of government. Government gave you, okay, if you do this with your money, we're not going to tax it. So if the problem is, if you're going to go that route, your Bitcoin is going to be confiscated. Every one of those counts ultimately is confiscatable because we accepted, okay, the government gave us the right to defer the income, or how they have different plans. I'm not going to go into all that, but you know what I'm talking about. And the only way that you can, put Bitcoin in your portfolio is to use the GBTC or whatever it is. And yeah, it's that's not a good use case for Bitcoin, and all we can do is keep preaching. Get your funds off of Coinbase, and I wouldn't touch GBTC. I have no reason to. And I did find out that I have a small retirement account somewhere that has maybe 30,000 in it. So I guess I'll have to go claim that and move it over to something where I can trade. Maybe I'll trade GPTs then that way, or buy. I like to buy Bitcoin and take delivery. That's what I really would like to do.
Wait, if you get an old retirement fund, but I mean, when would you be allowed to cash it out? I mean, okay, we're going to get into the specifics. Let's not get to his.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like I say, I trade Bitcoin. I understand Bitcoin. When you go into all these tax laws, it gets kind of complicated. But that's basically what Coinbase is set up, so that GPTC is compliant, and that's why they're doing it. And people want to put it. So you know what? If we talk about we want less government in our lives, let's get rid of income tax. Let's get rid of the Fed. Let's we no man's late. Hey, you young people out there protesting, I got a real simple message for you. Pick up on this one. Nobody's labor should be taxed. Nobody's labor should be taxed. That's it. Somebody would run on that and become president and give us that gift. Oh, that would be such a wonderful thing. That's where we're all being oppressed. That is slavery. They had to pass an amendment to tax people's labor, and they did it. My during my grandparents' era. Let's undo that, baby.
Found that like well, now that since we have a man who's a trader here, okay. Now, as Christian said, I mean, I'm obviously everybody knows I'm the strong hand dude, and I do not encourage trading, but I got this
Never
trader.
sell.
I got this trader on today. So, what are your how you doing with that old ugly goat? And what's your short? Are you bullish or bearish?
Well, that's never ask that question. You can ask me whether I'm long or short, and I'll tell you.
All right, longer.
So I'm definitely long Bitcoin. I'm short some. I think I'm short Ethereum, and I don't own any Ethereum, but I sell it. And I don't even. You know what? I don't even trade. My wife trades. Okay, because it's just easier for her to trade than it is for me. But I help her. We're partners in our trading. Then that's the goat lady. But yeah, I don't own any. I was a big believer in shit coins. I went down the same road as everybody else, and then I kept educating myself. And I basically, it wasn't until I restudied Hayek, and Hayek. I wrote this article. Bitcoin is the standard according to Hayek, because if you read Denationalization of Money, he actually says it's got to be not just free market money, but also banking. And then he also, later on, he wrote an article. He actually saw something emerge that was going to be the standard. But the standard was not going to be used as cash. Gold was never used as cash except in one place, and that was during the California gold rush when it was plentiful. It was never gold coins rarely circulated. You could own it, you're free to, but who owned the gold was either banks or rich people and the governments, because it was a settling, and that's where Bitcoin's going to be going. And then people don't, but that's where if it's sound money, and I believe it is, that's where we're going to be going. And that.
I mean, that's your prediction for the future, right there. I mean, we just had a halving. How was that for you? How was the halving?
Well, it's completely irrelevant to me. Okay, and there isn't that. Just like the people say there's Bitcoin inflation. No, there isn't. There's 22 million that are created, and just some of them aren't there yet. So how's that inflation? Inflation is if you're increasing the money supply. We know what the money supply of Bitcoin is. It's just they're not all quite there yet. That's not inflating the currency, folks. And that's another term, like maximalism that the shitcoiners has given us, and then we've adopted it to explain things. But Bitcoin has no inflation. There's a fixed supply. That's what's so cool about it. And because that supply is delayed, doesn't mean that it's being inflated. And that's the difference.
Now that we're talking about the future a little bit here. Well, Christian, I'll let you chime in if you have anything to add about the halving or anything like that. But with everything that's going on, it's crazy in this world today. Is it over, or is it just about to get more crazy, Christian?
So I do want to talk about the halving, and I want to ask you, the first time I learned about the halving, coming in as a 2017 noob, is from Mr. Adam Meister over here when I was getting my early education. And you were talking about how, when you got in, people were saying it's 2016 halving. Look for the 2016 halving. Hold on to your Bitcoin. It's gonna go up because of the halving. Now that you have lived through two halvings yourself, what was your anticipation of the halving? Or what was your view of it?
It's everything that I expected. Same thing. Going through the 2016 one, I remember people were very curious about what was going to happen, and then it was just we had a party, and it stayed pretty calm for the next 6 months. So this year we had a party. It's going to stay pretty calm. But what I did know back in 2016, well. As of 2016, I saw, compared to 2012, it's worth a lot more now. So I knew in 2020 it would be worth more than it was like in 2015 when I was talking about it. So again, I know that soon enough it's going to follow the pattern again. It will be worth more once again, and we're going to have insanity in 2021 probably. Just like we did in 2017.
Yeah, and I refer my first article, or one of my first, was how to profit how do you get the same results as a professional trader in Bitcoin? And it's real simple. You just dollar cost average. And what I did with that original article, that article got retweeted.
That's how you beat the traders.
Yeah, and because you wind up by it's a mathematical formula. You're going to buy more when it's cheap than when it's high. And then when it does go up, and I started it from the very highest level after the peak of $1,000. If you started buying here's your results. And you know what? If you put in $1,000 a month since that peak of $1,000 way back when, you're a millionaire right now. So basically, that's what I say. When I found Bitcoin, I was collecting Social Security. I put my Social Security in Bitcoin every month, and now look where I'm at. Okay. And so do I believe in Social Security? No. Do I believe in Bitcoin? Yes. And it's never too late. It's never too late. And plus, I do go short part of my hodl, but I'm never short Bitcoin. Somebody tweeted out that I said go short. No, I don't. I've never been short Bitcoin. I always have Bitcoin, but sometimes, it gets way overdone up there. Also part of it, particularly if I can get a premium for it. That's what trading is.
Well, one thing, and I'm glad you just said dollar cost averaging pizza trading. I mean, a trader's freaking saying it. But going back to Christian's question of me, the one thing I guess that's different about 2020 that I thought by now, it just Bitcoin would be obvious to so many more people, and that I wouldn't still be saying it's early. I didn't think in 2020 I would still have that line, it's early. And of course, no, you can't get Bitcoin for $600 now. That's true, but it still is early. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that should know about it. That I don't know what they're doing. That they're more concerned about their Social Security. It's ridiculous.
Okay, I'm going to pop your balloon a little bit, Adam. I'm going to pop a little bit. Okay. How many people that used the dollar at the turn of the century knew that we were on a gold standard? And did it really make any difference?
Say it again. You're getting quiet.
Okay. All right. At the turn of the century, let's say 1890. Okay, that was our blooming years, 1880s, first of the century, 1900s. We were on a gold standard. How many people really knew that we were on a gold standard? They knew the dollar. The dollar was, and so they didn't really understand monetary theory then. And I don't think that the requirement of a Bitcoin standard is going to even require that everybody know about Bitcoin. It's just going to be there, and it's not a requirement for it to succeed for people to know how it works, or even if it's working. I think a much more likely scenario, and I might be wrong on this, but as Bitcoiners, look, I live in Mexico. If they get repressive here, they could even seize my body. Okay, but they're going to have a hard time seizing my wealth. They can seize me and throw me in jail or whatever, so I can move. Well, that's a tremendous economic power for Bitcoiners. We can choose our jurisdictions. Yeah. And therefore, I see, hopefully, when this all comes out, we're going to see governments competing with to have sound money. And the only way that they can do that is to go back to a gold standard. And I see it wouldn't you love to see the gold standard be competing with the Bitcoin standard? I think it'd be really cool.
I would like to see real competition out there, but we don't really get that much. Hey, I want to go back to the coin. Christian sent me a link here. Okay, I want to go back to this for a second. Coinbase wants to sell blockchain analysis software to the IRS and DEA a year after its Neutrino acquisition. So this news broke an hour ago. Thank you, Christian. And well, one thing I got to say is, I just want to remind everyone that thinks Coinbase already has to give all your information to the IRS. I mean, if you're using Coinbase, the IRS knows what you're doing, dude. So right. I hope you're not. I hope no one out there is trying to avoid the IRS by using Coinbase.
Well, that's what KYI and AML is. I mean, basically you are giving up, and so you do that. I mean, I trade on the exchanges, and if you're trading it, you got to file your taxes. you got to pay your taxes. I recommend you pay as the amount that you owe and no more. But there are things that we have to be. We can fight this thing and we can win. We're not going to win, 100% ever, but we can sure make for a better world with more freedom. And there's some great causes to lay down our lives for, but I'm just not sure that the one that I see people protesting now, if that's the hill, it's certainly not the hill I want to be dying on.
Well, so Christian, with a lot of people, it seems like Coinbase is taking it to another level. Is this different than just handing over? But some people say Coinbase is a sellout because they give away your information to the IRS. I mean, you sell out. You sold it. You signed up for that. This seems to be different. Now, I haven't explored what this new news is yet, though. So
yeah, this is different. So every compliant exchange in the United States is complying with the law, which means that at a certain threshold, they're reporting users that to the tax authorities, especially if they sell. That's the more important thing. If you sell on the exchange for dollars, that's a key part. But also, if you're buying large amounts, you're also being reported. This is different. Coinbase now wants to become a blockchain analysis vendor. So that means Coinbase is not only an exchange, but they're also competing with the chain analysis, the elliptics. I don't even know all of the companies, but Coinbase is now going from a custodian, a trading platform, a fiat exchange, a Bitcoin bank, to now they're also adding into that repertoire chain analysis vendor. So they're doing everything except going vertical on Bitcoin, but Coinbase as an exchange, and we know that Coinbase is very, very good at chain analysis. They released a blog post that was analyzing the Quadriga CX debacle from 2019. That was probably the best analysis I've seen, which pretty much shows that they are really freaking good at chain analysis as it is. They are entering the chain analysis business, and they hold all the Bitcoin, and they have all these user accounts. You can keep listing it on, but Coinbase is just getting poopier and poopier.
Wow, this is a developing story here. I mean, but the thing is, obviously they feel they can get away with this, probably because most people that are newbies that are buying altcoins, they don't care about chain analysis. Here we go. I mean, this is the bottom line. Most Americans don't care about privacy at all. So you take that down
Not
a level.
yet.
But not you say
just
not
like
yet.
They didn't care about guns rights until this weekend, apparently.
I still think the majority of people out there, they're just happy fitting in, being part of the herd, and that if they can get their altcoins or whatever and play around, say they're in cryptocurrency, what, they don't care about the chain. They'll never learn about chain.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of take this to another level, and maybe you two can make your comments on it. That's why I try and make a distinction between Bitcoin and the Bitcoin standard, because the Bitcoin standard is not the Bitcoin standard means that other prices are priced in Bitcoin, that you start thinking in Bitcoin. And that's the difference between gold and the gold standard. The gold standard was the banks learned how to be banks, and we've lost that. My mentor, E.C. Harwood, wrote about the lost art of commercial banking. And what happened is that the banks learned to create new purchasing media, money, that was non-inflationary. It's called self-liquidating commercial paper. So that the money created, in other words, there's no Fed involved, there's money creation, but it's created as new goods are coming into the marketplace. Now, as those goods, if they decrease or they stop increasing, that money supply is liquidated. It's called self-liquidating. You can actually inflate the currency, but it's not. You can increase the purchasing media, but it's not inflationary, because it's representing not just Bitcoin or gold, but every other product coming into the marketplace. And the art was to judge, how much can you create for a certain product coming into the market. Well, if you were a banker for buggy whips, you are not a very sound bank, because buggy whips, over the next 20 years went into depression as far as the market, but everything else was going up. So I do think that I'm not a believer in 100% Bitcoin standard. I'm just not. I think that there will be market. I think that, what, if we say to be your own banks, then we as hodlers, we need to start figuring this out and be the modern day bankers. And it'll take a generation or two to figure it out. The gold standard did not develop in the early 1800s. It developed after the Civil War. And that's where they developed, they didn't have commercial banking until that time. And then it was the Federal Reserve that adopted this wonderful system in 1913, and it's taken over 100 years to destroy it. So we got to go back to where the lessons were learned. And I think if Bitcoin's a standard, I think we're going to build a standard. People are going to get on the standard and may not even know that they're on it. I mean, I don't know about you, but 6 weeks ago, we had 3 people working for us. We got 20 people working for us now. Well, are they on the Bitcoin standard? Yes, they are. They don't know it, but their paycheck, or they're getting paid, is based on the Bitcoin.
Well, this is where I've got a question for Christian about this. I mean, this Bitcoin standard he's talking about here, things being priced in Bitcoin, I don't see it. I only see it among the 20%ers, to tell you the truth. I don't think we'll ever be walking around in the United States and see things priced in Bitcoin. And I don't know. I don't think better explanation. I don't think most people will value their wealth in Bitcoin.
And I'm not, and I want to distinguish that, because I don't think so either. I think every nation's still going to have a jurisdiction, and Bitcoin is going to supersede the nations. So,
Christian,
yes, I don't think you're going to get rid of the dollar or the pound or the franc or any of that.
Your take, Christian, on this future output.
Oh, man, it's really hard to tell. I'm very confident that Bitcoin's going to go up and Bitcoin's going to be more relevant. It's difficult to tell is where are the other systems going to break down and not be as relevant. I think it's really clear to see that the dollar is destroying other fiats right now. That is kind of like the macro thing that's happening. So that's really interesting. And if you look at Bitcoin priced in other fiats, not the dollar, in many fiats, it's at all-time highs. So Bitcoin is the lowest in the world against all these different currencies. And for the most part, it's like straight up. But the dollar is extremely strong and it's extremely liquid. And it's going to take a long time to displace it. And really where I see Bitcoin versus the dollar is what is the most liquid good that is permissioned and what's the most liquid good that's permissionless. And it's going to take a long time for Bitcoin to compete as, an equivalently liquid good that is permissionless. So it's going to take a long time to get to this quote unquote Bitcoin standard.
Oh, yeah.
If we get to that point, though, you don't have to know what the hell Bitcoin is. All you have to know is that Bitcoin is better money. And you can go to Venezuela. You can go to all these other kind of South American countries with lesser money, African countries with lesser monies. They don't know ish about federal policy. They don't know ish about anything else. All they know is that dollar works better. And, Bitcoin will work better in that case. When Bitcoin is more liquid, when Bitcoin is a stronger monetary unit across the globe. But it's going to just take time, and it's going to be hard to see how that plays out. I think one thing that's in favor of a dominant Bitcoin standard is the fact that we have a global internet, we have a unified internet, and for the first time in the world, all jurisdictions are kind of connected like never before. And I think that that's bullish for, this standard that is kind of all encompassing. But that's speculation. Who knows how far it's going to go? Who knows how far Bitcoin's going to erode the power of the central banking, system and the state? It's just hard to tell.
Let me put it yet another way, too, because I agree. Everything you're saying, Bitcoin is the innovation, okay? And the next innovation, it's not going to be Bitcoin, but what we do with it. That's what's so cool. And we don't know what we're going to do with it yet. And that's why I say I have a standing offer for you guys. I don't know how old you guys are, but you're probably 30 in your 30s. but I'm going to guess I'm a generation older than
Something
you.
like that.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy to trade all the Bitcoin I have to be 40 years younger, because you're going to live in some really exciting times, and I really envy you. And the challenges that you guys have is great. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity. Run with it. If we're hodlers, if we're our own bankers, then we got to be examples, and we have to take that ball and run with it.
All right. What's the challenge exactly, though, for us? What was the challenge? I mean, what's the specific? You said you had a specific challenge.
Well, our challenge is to make it more useful.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So that's make it more. We got to figure out. Yeah, because you said we don't know what. I mean, that is the exciting part, that we don't know exactly what it's going to be in the future.
I would say that liquidity is utility. Like, what people want is liquidity. When they want money, they want something that holds value and they can reliably trade.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be all kinds of things that happen. For example, everybody makes this big issue about fees and so forth. But once a Bitcoin standard happens, we'll create our own network, and we don't even need to get on the blockchain. I already have my little Bitcoiners that I do business with, and we use it, but we could actually create, like Jimmy Song has taught me, if you want a really efficient way to transact business, you create a a database that's centralized, and we can create centralized databases that are on Bitcoin among each other. That's how it's going to go, guys. I mean, it really is. It's just incredible. We're a little bit, this 100% Bitcoin thing, I think, is a little too dogmatic for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's not 100% Bitcoin, but maybe like the world is on the metric system standard, right? For the most part, other than the US, everything is measured in centimeters, meters, whatever. I just think that at some point, Bitcoin gets critical mass where it just makes sense to measure things in sats.
Exactly. I agree with you completely.
You don't have to trade the UTXOs around. I think Bitcoin standard is measuring things in sats.
All right.
We're getting toward the end here. I got some a few final questions. Christian, any thoughts? We were almost going to talk about Lightning Network there. I thought it was about to come up, but it didn't get brought up there. But also, Bitcoin Core had a new release. Anything you want to talk about with that? Bitcoin Core, Lightning Network?
Well, Bitcoin Magazine, Aaron Van Werdum summarized the entire Bitcoin Core new release, 0.020. Bitcoin Core development, making the protocol more efficient, taking away less technical debt, cleaning it up, making it, it's Bitcoin development is much more along the lines of reductive than additive. So you see a lot of this dogma from altcoiners saying that, Bitcoin is so slow, Bitcoin so whatever, Bitcoin doesn't innovate fast enough. And their whole development process about how do we just keep piling on new ish to our blockchain, which is really the opposite of what Bitcoin Core developers are doing. Is our blockchain is the value transfer protocol, and we need to make it as robust and as efficient as possible. So the core developers continue to do that. New core developers continue to contribute and add to that effort. And the slow and steady march continues on. So it's awesome.
There's one other thing I wanted to bring up. I just wanted to calm everybody down about some FUD that's out there. The security vulnerability in the storage devices. There was some type of security vulnerability. I don't think it was pretty hardcore, like the way it could even be implemented. So I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to say, did you have anything to say about the security vulnerability, Christian? Whoa.
Sorry, I was muted.
You there?
I'm not technical. I don't know the nuances of it, but from my understanding, it has to do with SegWit addresses and a specific type of signing methodology where if the attacker is a miner and can get you to re-sign something with a higher fee, then they can either burn your money and or like as in a griefing attack to try to just make you feel bad, or they can or they can give the money to a miner or something like that. Again, it's like one of those things that it's like the perfect storm of situations of you screwing up while making a transaction and a malicious person trying to attack you that has a lot of hash rate. They could attack you. It seems as though this is obviously like not a great issue. It's not a great thing to happen. But at the same time, what is actually creating more controversy than the actual bug itself is maybe how Satoshi Labs treated the disclosure. Typically, when these type of open source vulnerabilities are found, the person that finds the vulnerability goes to everyone affected, lets them know, and gives them time to act on it. But what happened was Trezor and a wallet researcher or hacker discovered the vulnerability. They patched it all up, held onto that knowledge for about 90 days, released a blog post saying, here's the issue, here's how we fixed it. And then all the other stakeholders that were kind of vulnerable were left to pick up the pieces. So I think that's where that's where the scary things happen. The reality is this only affects you if you have a target on your back and you're moving coins right now. If you're not moving coins, this doesn't affect you. And if you don't have a target on your back and you don't have some enemy that's trying to F you over, then this doesn't affect you. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful with your Bitcoins. You got to check the address that you're sending it to.
Well, doesn't your computer need to be hacked also for this to work?
Yeah, your computer that you are broadcasting a transaction with must be compromised.
Okay, so I mean, this is such a long shot, weird thing. I just want to point that out, and it has to involve. It is. Yeah, it's it's not happening to people. Okay,
I would recommend it. It really doesn't affect a lot of us, and I thought Jimmy Song and Tone were on and kind of did a great job of addressing it. I think it was this morning or yesterday, but and then I checked with my website developer and the way we take the BitPay and so forth. I don't update my Trezor, and that's what Tone was saying. He doesn't either, and you can update it, but if you do, take your time and clean it out and do it right. But it's just much simpler. Just you don't. I get a Trezor. I don't do the updates, and if you didn't do the update, you're using an old Trezor. That doesn't even affect you. So it has no effect on my operation, and it probably has it. The only ones that it might affect is if you have a new Trezor or not even a new one, if you've updated your Trezor. And
I would just suggest do your own research on this.
Yeah,
before you take any of our advices. Do your own research. Watch the Tone Vase video. There are experts that can be much more.
Yeah, all right. My experts from my trust have basically said, don't worry about it. So,
all right, yeah, and again, it's a really long shot. I mean, everybody out there, it has some miner hacked your computer. I mean, that's what you've got to narrow it down to. And no, that really hasn't happened. Okay, so I just want to clear up the FUD because there were people who contacted me that were anytime that the word there's a Trezor vulnerability or something, people get scared. Just the word, it's scary. But every time we've had these issues, disclosures, whatever, it's so. These are really long shot type of things, and they would never happen to the common user. So let's get to our conclusionary thoughts because we've hit the end of the show. Let's start with the great ugly old goat. Thank you for joining us today. Your second appearance on the show. Is there anything you wanted to conclude with? Any stories that were left out? Anything you wanted to share?
No, not really. I mean, I just keep on holding dollar cost average. If you're gonna look, people come to me because I'm a very successful trader. I publish everything that I do. I don't know if maybe there's somebody else out there that does that, but I teach people. If you have a hodl and you want to learn to trade, you kind of need to throw the charts away and learn to manage those funds. It's really money management and not all this other stuff. And what's applicable in business is also applicable in trading. There's certain principles that you need to learn. And as long as you are trading just a small part of your hodl and you reduce it if you take some losses, you're going to do just fine. And but if you don't want to trade, that's great too. You don't need to, and that's what my articles are all about. Is that fundamentally number one is money management. Okay. Number two is fundamental. And you know what? I'm fundamentally bullish Bitcoin, not because Bitcoin's the innovation, but I'm fundamentally bullish because of our fiat money system and our big government. And then the very last thing I look at, and it's a distant third, is technical analysis. Because if you can have all the TA in the world, but if you're not managing those funds, you are eventually going to blow it. And so you have to get those priorities right.
All right. Strong hand, people. That's what I say. Christian, your conclusionary thoughts.
Thank you, Adam, for having me on. I think this is like the third or fourth time on the show. Every single time is a pleasure. Every single time I get to meet someone I look up to in the space. So great meeting you, ugly old goat. Been following you for a minute.
Thank you. I didn't know. I know I got all these people, and I'm glad to be introduced to you. I'm trying to keep up with the news, but man, Bitcoin's so busy and so deep, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the best thing about the space is just an endless community of just fantastic people. Like I said, Adam has taught me so much about Bitcoin, and I learned about the halving from him a lot, learned about strong hands and hodling from him. So
and he's lots of fun,
here.
He's lots of fun. He's got a niche, a shtick you got to have. I'm ugly old goat. You got to have a shtick if you're going to do this thing.
And I just want to say I hung out with both these guys in person too. So yeah, these are great guys. This is them for real life. This is who they are, and they can say that this is me. I'm the same dude in person. So
yeah, I love it. I love the way you tell us about yourself. So
all right, now both of them are linked to below. Remember, follow them on Twitter. Christian, anything else you were going to say? You were in the middle of something.
Yeah, I mean, like I would just encourage people to be as conservative as possible. Never put yourself in a position where you have to sell. Put yourself in a position where you can always accumulate, and that you're taking care of yourself month to month. If you have to pay your rent with that money, you shouldn't be buying Bitcoin with it. You should be buying Bitcoin with your dispensable income, with the marginal difference that you don't need to spend. And guess what? If you need to spend less so you can buy some more Bitcoin, then be responsible and spend less. But don't spend money that you can't afford to invest with, because Bitcoin is volatile. But this is the biggest bull market in history, and if you can ride it out, even your 10,000 satoshis, even your 100,000 satoshis, they're going to make you very wealthy in the future. So just be conservative, hold on for the long haul, and have a strong hand, as Adam always likes to say.
Yeah, I love that spend less mentality. Again, you don't need to get the big fancy cards, dudes, and then wonder in 2024, why does that guy have Bitcoin and I don't? No, it's because you got a fancy car you didn't need back in 2020. All right, dudes, that is it. Thank you, guest.
All right.
Remember, every Saturday, every Friday, you get this Week in Bitcoin. Who knows what time? Sometimes you got a guy that's got a Bitcoin freaking staff. You never know what you're going to see on this show. And yes, he actually brings that Bitcoin staff out to events. I got to hold the staff. I saw the staff.
And I wear my mask too, but let me finish with I always want to teach everybody the dance, because to me it's everything about Bitcoin. We hodl. Okay, we save, and that means that's savvy. When you get some rewards, Bitcoin's treating you well. Take your wife out to dinner and buy a new laptop. And the last thing we do is we hodl, and build, and that means we're building on Bitcoin. That's what all three of us here are doing, and we want you to build on it too. So that's sound money.
That guy is a unique beast. He will scare you straight sometimes. He will entertain you. You don't know what's coming next, but I'll tell you what's coming next with this show. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Subscribe to the channel. It's the backup channel. Pound that like button. Shabbat Shalom. We'll up new show every day. Saturday night, you'll see the Beyond Bitcoin show. Thanks a lot, guys.